Welcome back to more UCL Fantasy content. This will be the team selection for Matchday 2, where I'll compare the Wildcard and Limitless chips. Both of them are viable this week, but not for everybody. Everyone's situation is different, and ultimately it is team dependent, but I'll be comparing them and also analysing which one is better for my circumstances. And there is also a lot more to discuss in the deadline stream tomorrow, with more team news, injury updates, the early lineups, including Real Madrid, which could be very important for either Limitless users or wildcarders. And for those with free transfers, both of those videos will still be useful to you, so you can determine the best transfers for Matchday 2 specifically with that Limitless video. And with a wildcard, you get longer term picks, looking at the fixtures and other factors. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date with my content for both UCL Fantasy and FPL. Let's get this video in particular to over 300 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards new goals like 37,000 subscribers. Join my UCL Fantasy League. The code is on screen, SEINOF. There's an auto join link in the description. The same goes to my Spotify, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and there's also my Patreon and the Championships. Click the join button on YouTube and also go to patreon.com/FPL Dylan for early access to my videos, prior to replies to comments, amongst many other perks. Those are very useful when it comes to UCL Fantasy deadline streams, which are extremely hectic to say the least. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. As usual, I'll start off with a review of the previous match day, which happens to be the first game week of this new Champions League campaign. It was kind of mixed bag for me. There were some good points, including my defensive line, and my 4 million goalkeeper Pashalakis started as we expected because the main goalkeeper was suspended for Matchday 1 and he delivered a clean sheet. That's all I cared about. But Olympiacos dropped points in a goalless draw against Paphos, who had their Champions League debut. They did extremely well, down to 10 men, and Olympiacos at one point had 10 men themselves, but that was overturned with Taremi getting a yellow card instead. But Pashalakis will not start now against Arsenal in Matchday 2, and he is a clear sell. The same goes for my other keeper, arguably, but that will be discussed very soon. But I'm very happy with Pashalakis. In my defensive line, I had Hakimi, Gabriel, and Grimaldo, who scored late on against Copenhagen in that 2-2 draw. Don't expect clean sheets from Bayer Leverkusen, but Grimaldo remains a brilliant asset. He plays so well for them on a consistent basis and delivers goals and assists regularly for Bayer Leverkusen. Gabriel scored over the weekend against Newcastle and delivered 13 points in FPL, and for Matchday 1, he got 9 points against Athletic Bilbao with ball recoveries and a clean sheet, and he is such a solid option if he can stay nailed on in this team, because Arsenal have so much depth defensively. They can give someone like Gabriel rest and still get a win and clean sheet. I think he's a brilliant option in UCL Fantasy and one of the very best in the game. The same goes for Hakimi, but PSG have terrible fixtures now, so you could argue he's a sell. I don't think it's a priority though, facing Barcelona away, and both teams will be without key players. So PSG have the likes of Vitinha and Kvaratskhelia as injury doubts. They were subbed off over the weekend with several problems, and Rafinha and Joan Garcia will both be out for the next month. But Yamal made his return, of course, and he provided the winning assist for Robert Lewandowski. But Hakimi has had a poor start to the season for his standards. He will get more goals and assists over the course of the season, but it was a 7-pointer in a 4-0 win over Atalanta in Matchday 1. The midfield, though, was the biggest disappointment of my UCL Fantasy team, and going for Pedro Gonçalves over Trincao was such a massive swing, and it was a bit unfortunate. And guess what happened the game after Matchday 1 in the Portuguese League? Both Gonçalves and Luis Suarez scored, and that made things even more frustrating from a UCL Fantasy perspective, because they are quality assets on their day, and I still think Gonçalves is better than Trincao, but for Matchday 1, that wasn't the case. Rafinha is now injured, as I mentioned. He only got 3 points against Newcastle, and it was Marcus Rashford who stole the show, but he's classified as a forward in this game. Both Barcola and Elise were also underwhelming, and Barcola missed a penalty. That could have been a massive return. He also missed a big chance, but at least he got something with an assist, but it should have been at least 10 plus points, to be quite honest with you. I also started last season with him, and it was a massive disappointment as well. He has a lot of talent, and he's got that goal scoring ability, but he can be very inconsistent with his finishing. But Elise remains a brilliant option because of the consistency in the Bundesliga and Champions League, and against Paphos away, he is going to be a great captaincy option for most of us on the Tuesday. But he will be overshadowed by 2 players up front. That includes Kylian Mbappe, who stole the show and also saved my team with a massive return there against Marseille. A bit fortunate as well with 2 penalties, and one of them was a bit dubious, but I'll take that shamelessly as a UCL fantasy manager. Erling Haaland only scored 1 goal, and Harry Kane was the pick for matchday 1, scoring a brace against Chelsea and delivering 15 points. So that's another massive swing, of course, and Harry Kane is fixture-proof. He has been incredible for Bayern Munich throughout his career, but this season he's going to another level with 10 goals in 4 Bundesliga matches, and Erling Haaland is still doing very well with 8 goals in 6 games in the Premier League, and he's also gone to 50 Champions League goals quicker than anybody else in history in just 49 matches, so he's another great option. But Luis Suarez scored the winning goal over the weekend, but not in UCL Fantasy. He blanked against Kara Almaty. Him and Pedro Gonçalves could only deliver a ball recovery point, and at least they were subbed off just after 60 minutes, but it was a massive flop from both of them. On my bench, it was also a big disappointment, of course, and the way UCL Fantasy works is you take off your lowest scoring players for those yet to play, and for matchday 2 now, we won't have games on the Thursday, so it's just Tuesday and Wednesday. You've got 2 shots at the captaincy, and you've got only 1 window to make substitutions. I had Trubin there, who conceded 3 goals to Karabag. Benfica were 2-0 up, and of course they sacked their manager, and Jose Mourinho is now at the helm. So doubling up on Benfica defensively was a mistake of mine, and I think Otamendi to Quenda was definitely the play. I was going to do it, but with some late changes in my deadline stream, I wasn't able to do so. So I do hold my hands up for that. I think with Kane versus Haaland, a bit of an unlucky swing. The same goes for Trincao versus Pedro Gonçalves as well. If you look at Trincao's performances in the Portuguese league and all competitions, he has been quite underwhelming in recent matches. But I also had Xavi Simons. That was a poor pick on my part. He only got 3 points. And I also had Howson, who got a ball recovery point, just like Otamendi, but only 3 in general. So quite disappointing. The captaincy on Mbappe was solid. That was very good. The defensive line, including Pashalakis, was also, pretty good. They did their job, but the midfield was the big letdown, and my third forward in Luis Suarez, even going for Pavlidis, another 50-50 call, went against me there with 4-point swing, and ultimately Pavlidis is the more consistent option. He's been doing very well. He scored a brace over the weekend, so maybe that was the play, but I think Luis Suarez and Pedro Gonçalves were basically what kind of pushed this team down to quite an average week overall. So I got 81 points. That pales in comparison to how I did in matchday 1 last season, where I think I got over 120 points, and I captained Kane when he scored over 20 himself. So things obviously do swing a lot in certain aspects, but that always happens in FPL and UCL Fantasy. There's a lot of skill involved in it, and the better decisions you make, the luckier you will get sometimes, but a lot of it does depend on luck and fortune, and you do get these massive swings and 50-50 calls. Sometimes you'll get them spot on, and on other occasions, that won't be the case. Let me discuss some possible transfers on the wild card. That includes a goalkeeper move from Trubin to Raya. This is a massive upgrade, and with Benfica facing Chelsea away, who are in the top 6 for the clean sheet odds, I don't think this is going to be that easy for Chelsea, and Jose Mourinho might want to spoil the party there. The Blues are really struggling right now, but I don't think a clean sheet will happen there for the Portuguese outfit. But Arsenal have a great chance against Olympiacos at home. They are 3rd in the clean sheet odds, as highlighted in my best Limitless team video. And Denzel Dumfries in for Hakimi is another great shout here. Inter Milan have the best fixtures up until matchday 5. Then there's a clear swing by that stage, but Dumfries is fixture proof. He showed that against Barcelona last season in the Champions League semi-finals, and Hakimi is also fixture proof, but PSG have some poor games on paper up until matchday 8 for the entire league phase, but against Atalanta, who aren't an easy opposition, they got a 4-0 victory, and Hakimi delivered 7 points, so he'll be absolutely just fine. But it's Barcelona away next, and I think this is a massive upgrade with Dumfries facing Slavia Prague at home, and Inter Milan are right up there for the clean sheet odds with Bayern Munich, Real Madrid and Arsenal. Let's now discuss a midfielder move. I need to bolster this position, especially with Rafinha out injured, and Yildiz is a great option at 6.5 million. He is very consistent for Juventus, and he gets plenty of goals and assists. He showed that in the Club World Cup, where I also highlighted him as a potential option. And in the Champions League last season, he had moments. I think he'll be more consistent this time round. He only cost 6.5 million, and he's still my favourite Juventus attacker, even though Vlahovic stole the show from the bench and he won player of the match in that 4-4 draw against Borussia Dortmund. So Yildiz should be considered, and the same goes for Harry Kane. But moving Erling Haaland away to Harry Kane is still a bit of a kind of sore point for me, because I think you can't go wrong with either of these options. It was Kane who got the better of Haaland in matchday 1 with a 9-point swing in his favour, but it could easily be Haaland this time round facing Monaco away. But Bayern Munich are facing Paphos, also away from home, and Kane is second in the goal scorer odds, only behind Mbappe. That is covered in my best wildcard team video as well. Ultimately, I'd love to have both of them, and the only way I can see myself doing it is if I use the Limitless chip, which is still a possibility for me. Having these two and Mbappe looks incredible for matchday 2. They all have appealing fixtures. I think Erling Haaland's will be the worst on paper against Monaco away, but they are conceding multiple chances in every single match, and they're not keeping enough clean sheets in Ligue 1 or the Champions League. So I think Erling Haaland is still a brilliant option, but Harry Kane looks even better for the next 2 match days. So with all of that in mind, this is my provisional matchday 2 team selection with a wildcard chip being activated. I could go for Robert Sanchez in goal, and the main reason is because he rotates very well with my main goalkeeper. It might be a lot of money in this position because Sanchez costs 5 million, and in recent matches Chelsea have been poor defensively, so this could easily change to Carnesecchi, and I do discuss different goalkeeper pairings in my wildcard squad, and there are plenty that I've also highlighted across all of my UCL fantasy content. So facing Benfica at home won't be easy, but my defensive line looks really solid with Dumfries, Gabriel and Christian Romero, because Tottenham Hotspur are second in the fixture difficulty rating up until matchday 8. Gabriel has solid fixtures. I know Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid won't be easy, and he'll surely start those games. And in some of the easier fixtures, there is a slight chance of Arsenal rotating in certain areas. They have been managing their squad quite well so far this season, and they're facing Olympiacos at home. With Denzel Dumfries, he's the standout in my opinion with the highest ceiling, and he's a genuine consideration for the captaincy. And yes, you can captain defenders in this game. With FPL, it's probably kind of scoffed at, but it's a real consideration in the Champions League. We've seen that with Hakimi and Dumfries, especially last season, and I'm very happy with his defensive line. Even Romero facing Bodo Glimt away, I think a clean sheet is possible. He can score a few goals from set pieces and offer plenty of ball recoveries in the process. And speaking of goals, Gabriel just scores so many important ones, like at St James's Park, at Anfield, at the Etihad, and also at Stamford Bridge. So he has done it on multiple grounds, at the Emirates as well, and against Olympiacos if he starts, I wouldn't rule that possibility out either. He is a great UCL fantasy option. In the midfield, I can go for Çalhanoğlu, so I could have at least a double up in Inter Milan with Elise, Yildiz, and Arda Güler. So 3 Turkish players in the midfield, but they are really good players here. Quality options, covering some of the best teams across Europe. And Arda Güler is facing Kara Almaty away. There are some poor fixtures on the horizon for Real Madrid, but Güler only costs 6 million, so I think he's a good option. He got a goal and assist against Atletico Madrid in a 5-2 defeat on Sunday. And you've also got Yildiz facing Villarreal away from home, so that's a very good option. And by the way, I think Real Madrid played on Saturday. Who cares? They still lost 5-2. Yildiz, though, facing Villarreal, I think that's an okay fixture. The Spanish team have been fairly decent in La Liga, and Juventus are showing more consistency nowadays, and they are right up there in the Serie A table. But that will be not the easiest of matches, and Yildiz still has good fixtures in the long run. But Elise faces Paphos away. He only costs 8 million. It's a no-brainer pick, in my opinion. You've got Gnabry at 6.5, but he rotates a bit with Nicholas Jackson, and his minutes are far from secure. He can be subbed off at half-time or around 60 minutes, whilst Elise will generally get 70 or 80 minutes minimum, and he can get plenty of 90-minute cameos or appearances as well. Çalhanoğlu is the penalty taker for Inter Milan, facing Slavia Prague at home. He got 10 points in matchday 1. He's a great option, can get ball recoveries, also a few assists like he did against Ajax, so I have no complaints about that pick whatsoever. And the same goes for my forward line. You can't have any complaints about Mbappe, Kane and Marcus Thuram. Ideally, I'd have Erling Haaland, and it would be possible on the Limitless, but it requires downgrades elsewhere. There's also Lamine Yamal in the midfield, who deserves serious consideration at the very least, even against PSG at home. And from matchday 3 onwards, I would like to have the Spaniard in that midfield setup. But I think if you're not going for Haaland, the best alternatives are Guirassy, Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram. He only costs 8 million, and around matchday 5 or 6, you could swap into Guirassy if you base it off the fixtures. Slavia Prague at home is a great opportunity, but he played quite poorly over the weekend, and that's something we should bear in mind. But Kane and Mbappe are scoring in every single game, essentially, for club and country. Mbappe scored in that 5-2 loss against Atletico Madrid, and Harry Kane is getting braces and hat-tricks in virtually most matches. He also has 10 goals in 4 Bundesliga appearances. On my bench, I've got Raya facing Olympiacos at home. That's the main reason why I've got Sanchez at the moment, but that could be Karnaseci and saving 0.5 million in the process. I've also got Spinazzola, who is currently an injury doubt due to muscle fatigue, but having a Napoli player is still crucial because they are top of the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating, up until Matchday 8, which is covered in my chip strategy guide. There's also Ben Sabani and Adeyemi, who face Athletic Bilbao at home, and I do like these picks in most match days except for when they face Man City. That's the only downside to having these Dortmund assets. Anton at 4 million is still decent despite the poor return in Matchday 1. You've also got Garassi up front, of course, but I think Adeyemi is the informed Borussia Dortmund attacker, and it does come down to the captaincy on the Tuesday, and at the moment, I do favour Kylian Mbappe, and one of the main advantages of having Erling Haaland is that he plays on the 1st of October on the Wednesday, so you could swap one of Kane or Mbappe to him, or maybe make some sacrifices elsewhere and drop Thuram to Haaland, so you've got a great captaincy option on the 1st of October, which isn't the case for me on paper, and that's why Yildiz would be my backup option, but you could certainly argue that isn't as strong as what I discussed in my best Limitless team video. Let me now show you some injury updates, stats, and other factors here in the next section, and towards the end of this podcast, I'll show you an alternative wildcard squad, which includes Lamine Yamal, and also some Limitless picks for you to consider. There were some incredible games in Matchday 1, and the highlight has to be Borussia Dortmund against Juventus, a 4-4 draw, and it was an absolute rollercoaster of a match. The momentum swung one way, then the other. You had multiple chances, goals, even defenders were scoring, own goals. You had everything in Matchday 1 there, and you can see the league phase table. Of course, the top 8 teams will qualify directly for the knockout stages, which are played from Matchday 11 onwards, and for those that are between 9th and 24th, they will have to play a playoff, of course, the knockout playoff rounds in match days 9 and 10. And of course, up until match day 8, it's the league phase. Those that finish at 25th or below are eliminated from the competition, just like last season. You can also see the team of the week for UCL Fantasy, and guess what? None of them were in my squad, but a few of them do feature in my current wildcard setup for match day 2, like Kane and Thuram, for example, and you've got plenty more where that came from. Let's also discuss other stats, like the youngest player to reach 50 goals. That was Lionel Messi at 24 years of age. Erling Haaland, though, is second, but if you break it down in terms of appearances, Haaland did it in 49 matches, whilst Van Nistelrooy was second with 62, and Messi with 66. So as you can see, Erling Haaland is a robot, an absolute goal-scoring machine, and the all-time top scorer is, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo. It will take some time for him to be beaten, but Erling Haaland and Mbappe are the two most likely from this generation. Messi, of course, and Lewandowski in the top 3, and the Polish striker scored the winning goal against Real Sociedad on Sunday. But let's move on to other factors here, like the kind of standout performers in different metrics. So you have Phil Foden in terms of penalty area deliveries and stuff like that. Shots on target from Mbappe, who will be highlighted again as well. His record in the Champions League and for Real Madrid is phenomenal. You've also got the most clearances, saves. Really, by the way, has been brilliant recently against Real Madrid in match day 1 with 13 saves, and against Paris Saint-Germain in a 1-0 victory for Marseille last week. You've also got Tapsoba there, who is one of the highlighted players. And in terms of distance covered, that's not really too relevant in UCL Fantasy, but there you go. So in terms of the most saves for matchday 1, Rulli, Karnaseci are the two standouts, and they could be considered actually on a wild card. For example, Rulli rotates well with the PSG goalkeeper Chevalier, who costs 4.5 million. You might want to consider that. And Karnaseci rotates extremely well with Robert Sanchez and David Raya. So that's something I'm considering, which I highlighted in my best wildcard team video. Karnaseci and Raya as a solid goalkeeper pairing up until matchday 8. And here you can see more ball recoveries being highlighted with the Paphos defender there, Lucasen, getting 18 clearances, and ball recoveries is so important in UCL Fantasy. And here with Ajax, you have Yuri Bass, who got 13 ball recoveries in matchday 1. Next up is Doku, who is one to watch, and he got a few assists actually against Burnley. They are FPL assists, but they do count, and he also got 2 assists against Man United very recently. So he's got a very high ceiling, but he's not scoring enough, and it does put me off a little bit in terms of UCL Fantasy. But Kylian Mbappe with 10 shots, 5 on target, which was the most of any player, and he scored a brace, and it was from the penalty spot, and I'm thankful for it. Marcus Thuram is definitely one to watch, facing Slavia Prague at home next. Union Saint-Gilloise away, and then Kairat Almaty at home. So Inter Milan should definitely be considered for a double or triple up on the wildcard in Matchday 2, and Thuram is a good option. But with team news, it's worth noting that Jan Sommer has been benched in Serie A on multiple occasions, but the Inter Milan president Murata gave the following comment. He's a great goalkeeper. The coach uses his logic. He's giving Martinez chances now, which is great to see, but Sommer remains the starter, and that should be the case in Matchday 2, facing Slavia Prague at home, so I have no concerns about him whatsoever. But there are, of course, a few issues for Barcelona. The kind of positive for them, of course, is Yamal was included against Real Sociedad. He was in the squad. He came on as a substitute and provided the winning assist in just a minute of him being subbed on. So he made an immediate impact and gave Barcelona all 3 points as they're looking to win La Liga once again. Rafinha is out, and the estimated recovery time is around 3 weeks. This was provided by Barcelona on their official Twitter page, and they also gave an update on Joan Garcia, who will be out for between 4 to 6 weeks. He had surgery as well, and he is a top goalkeeper for them. Now, both Kvaratskhelia and Vitinha were subbed off over the weekend in a 2-0 victory. I did mention it before in several of my videos, so keep an eye out for it. They haven't been officially ruled out yet, and we will see the official squads that are travelling, and let's see if PSG do include Kvaratskhelia and Vitinha. Of course, the Georgian was a doubt going into Matchday 1. He played and delivered a massive haul. He was a consideration for me before that injury news. But yeah, it's worth noting there are a lot of injury updates and team news that will be provided tomorrow during the deadline stream. The early lineups for Real Madrid will be very crucial to say the least, and all of those will be covered, even Kairat Almaty and the other game taking place there between Atalanta and Club Brugge. So stay tuned for more UCL Fantasy content throughout the coming weeks and across the entire season. The same goes for FPL, and for the Champions League, you'll get Wildcard and Limitless squads for every single match day. On the odd occasion, like for the Champions League final, you'll have a best team video instead, combining both of those boosters into one podcast. And I don't suggest using the Limitless for the Champions League final, as covered in my chip strategy guide. And I think using both of them early is the way to go this season. My how to play video also gives you all the intricacies of UCL Fantasy, so nothing catches you off guard. And my deadline streams provide everything. It's like an ultimate guide, answering all your questions, providing team news, injury updates, top 10 captains, goal scorer and clean sheet odds, with all the stats, fixtures and form you need, so you're well prepared for every single deadline this season. My team is subject to change, as covered earlier in this video. I've currently got 0.5 million in the bank with the squad I showed you, but there are some alternative picks in every single position, and this structure includes Lamine Yamal in the midfield, and it could be a combination of this and what you saw earlier in my final team tomorrow. So I've got Karnaseci and Merit as a very cheap goalkeeper pairing. Dumfries, Byrne, Gabriel, Bensabani and Romero were also talked about in my best wildcard team video, with Enzo Fernandez, Yildiz, Elise, Yamal and Arda Güler. That's a very solid midfield in the long term. And instead of Thuram, I could go for Guirassy and just leave him for the entire league phase. And Erling Haaland over Kane or Mbappe is risky, but it also gives you another captaincy option on the Wednesday, because you can't captain both Mbappe and Kane, unfortunately. They both play on the 30th of September on the Tuesday, so you have to pick between those two, and I still think in an ideal world you have all three of them, the big hitters up front. They are worth the money and underpriced, of course, at 10.5 million, but I might go for something like this in the end, with Thuram over Guirassy, for example, and a few other changes like in the goalkeeper position, but it would require a downgrade elsewhere, and that will likely come in my defensive line to another cheap option instead of Dumfries or Gabriel, but that isn't ideal. I've already got Dan Burn at 4.5, and Newcastle have decent fixtures and a solid defence. Bensabani is on penalties for Borussia Dortmund. That's very unique for a defender. We saw that with Emre Can over the last couple of seasons for Borussia Dortmund as well. And Christian Romero is a solid long-term option with Spurs' fixtures, and there is even more where that came from. And with the Limitless, this is still a possibility for me, because you can go for Courtois and Raya and double up on Inter Milan defensively with DeMarco and Dumfries. And for those of you that don't like that, you could still go for Sommer in goal over Courtois and then drop one of DeMarco or Dumfries and diversify your defensive line a little bit, because out of those 5 spots for this position, you've got 2 of them on the same team. Upamecano, Bensabani and Gabriel looks really solid as well, but there's also Virgil van Dijk. You might even want a Real Madrid defender instead. And in the midfield, Saka, Salah, Elise, Vinicius and Yamal looks incredible. And as you can see now, the orange flag on Yamal has been removed as he is available for Matchday 2. Haaland, Kane and Mbappe is the best front three you can build for Matchday 2 and in the long term. But I think on a wildcard, for example, it's probably worth dropping one of them. So you've got a balanced squad overall. As you can see, I'm 17 million over budget. And if you decide to go for a more expensive defender than Ben Sabani, it would be 18.5 million potentially over the 100 million threshold. But that's where the Limitless comes in handy. I think it's a very underrated time to use it in Matchday 2. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you prefer the Limitless, wildcard, or using free transfers this week? And thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or find it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Our aim is to get this to the 300 likes and to keep on pushing towards new goals like 37 subscribers. Follow me on X, Instagram and Blue Sky, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships. For access to my videos, amongst many other perks, my Discord server, the UCL Fantasy League and Spotify can also be found in the description. I'll see you tomorrow for the next UCL Fantasy Deadline stream and keep your eyes peeled for more FPL content throughout the week.